If the word's not out yet, I'm Rhonda Findley, part of the Fun Rockin' Pop City team, and I just want to let you know that Halloween 2020 is not going to go on without Fun Rockin'. Fun Rockin' is popping up at 940 Decatur in the French Market, and I thought, well, we have a contest going on, so you can like and share and tag somebody, and all those will get you extra spots in the drawing to win a $50 gift certificate to come spend on wigs, makeup, hats, jewelry, sunglasses, crazy stuff, things to get your costume together for Halloween. Maybe you're Halloweening at home, Halloweening in place, Halloweening out on the street, but it's Halloween and we're just not gonna let it go by. So Fun Rockin's back at 940 Decatur at the French Market. And I just thought it would be really great to show you a couple of really quick tricks, maybe a costume idea, and come live and kind of capture your attention. So like the main reason we're here is so that you know that Fun Rockin's got a pop-up shop in the French Quarter. The second thing is just do it. Get out there and be part of Halloween. Hold on a second, I'm gonna show you something. It's all about making it happen, right? So how we're gonna make it happen is we're gonna use Mirhan face paints, right? Here you go. I've got 3. I got it Fun Rockin'. They're $3.50 a tube. Woo, $3.50, holla. It's really easy to do these makeup things, and we're gonna do some version of this, and we're gonna start out with our base. And while I'm doing it, I just need you to know, and you probably already know, I rarely wear makeup. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm not much of a customer, but I did not want the spirit of the time to get away from us because it's really important to live life. I was reading in the paper today that, some people were revisiting Steve Jobs. You know, we all have our iPhones. I'm filming on an iPhone. And Steve Jobs said that the reason why people have a hard time getting anything done in life is because they don't make that first phone call. They don't take a chance. You know, people tell me no all the time. And so, you have to be willing to take a chance. So I'm gonna just do this. I have to admit I didn't do Facebook Live though, because I thought it really messes up. Everything's gonna be like out in the open. But I thought, well, I'll just take a chance. I'll show you that you can get this great Mirror face paint plus a million other things at the pop-up shop at 940 Decatur. And you don't have to be nervous. You don't have to worry. And then while you're watching me do this, I'm gonna tell you a little New Orleans story, because those of you that aren't in New Orleans that maybe want to celebrate Halloween, you might want an idea for makeup. And you can't see this crazy mess, but there's like 1,000,001 things sitting on this table in front of me. But I'm trying to make it all look fancy. So the first thing is I thought voodoo. So voodoo, everybody knows Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans, and I am an avid collector of Haitian artwork, and this is called a drapeau, and it is not evil, okay? That is not what we're here to talk about, but this is a La Sirene, and she is a mermaid. She's really cool, and she likes pretty things, and she is an interesting loa, or a spirit of voodoo. And I love her. And so she's depicted by different artists. This is a handmade piece. So I wanted to let you know that I am very interested in voodoo and how it relates to the history of New Orleans. And so that's, excuse me, that's what we're here to talk about. Not here to talk about religion. We're here to talk about cool, interesting stuff that is cultural, okay? So this is a drapeau, and see, it's not scary, and look, oh, I'm still here, and so that's it, okay? So she's La Sirene, and maybe another time a lesson in voodoo, but not today. So I want to talk about a guy named Dr. John. So the first thing I'm gonna do while I'm doing that is I'm gonna get in the spirit of things. So I'm gonna first, while we're doing that, I'm gonna outline, kind of look over here. This is a little crayon pencil because I wanna get the outline of my skull face, okay? Anyway, Dr. John. Okay, so right place, wrong time. He's a great musician. Not that Dr. John. Not the contemporary Dr. John. we're talking about Dr. John Montanee, and Dr. John Montanee was born in about 1815 in Senegal, and he was, well, I'll tell you about him a little bit, exactly specifically, but he was a contemporary of Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans, or New Orleans, it sounds better, it's more rhythmic, right? And she was very famous, she has a whole story, but John Montanee actually taught her. They probably roamed the streets together, they probably had similar clients, but Dr. John Montanee, or John Montanee, as he was known, was born to the band. I'm actually going to look here because I want to get that name right, because I am not a historian nor a scholar, and I want to make sure that you know the exact name of his tribe in case I mess that up. The Bombisi people, the Bombali, we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to make sure I say it right, so just hold off on that. But he was captured, he was sold into slavery, and he ended up in Cuba. But his story about his practitioner, voodooism, starts in New Orleans on the levee, or the wharves, the riverfront. They called it the levee then, we have levees here now, but if they said meet me on the levee, they meant on the riverfront, right? And so that's where Dr. John Montanee's story starts. So, in New Orleans. But before that, he was a prince in his tribe in what is now the country of Senegal. All right, so he gets captured, and he's traded, and which is horrible, and he ends up in Cuba. He gets part of the diaspora of the African slave trade, ends up in Cuba, and he has a West Indian slave master who actually teaches Dr. John how to cook. And that became kind of his thing, which I find fascinating. So he spent many years there honing his skill set, and he eventually forms a very close bond with his slave master in Cuba. The Dominica, I think, is what it would be called at that time. And he ends up earning his freedom. And he hits the road. And he becomes a cook on a ship. And he travels the world, both hemispheres, it's noted. And he's able to see the world, and I know somebody here that did the same thing, was a merchant marine, ended up in New Orleans and got off the boat, baby, and was like, this looks good to me. So a little background before we get even a little bit further in how his life changed again significantly when Dr. John, or John Montanee, made it to New Orleans. First of all, he died in 1885. And most of the information that I have here is from an article that was in Harper's Weekly. And it was by a writer, and this really very, very famous writer from New Orleans. Well, he was originally from Cincinnati, he was born in Greece. His name is Lafcadio Hearn. So I will have to tell you that while it's not a scholarly article, look at all this white paint. I told you I wasn't good at this, right? But it's okay, because I'm doing it. So Lafcadio Hearn, you can bet that it was researched and very much checked out as best it could for the times, 1885. So we're looking at an article written more than 100 years ago. So here's what it said. When he passed, Dr. John Montanee, yes, the same Dr. John that our contemporary Dr. John took his name from, was known as a conjure man, an herbalist. He was a physician. They called him a Creole doctor. He was a healing doctor. He owned real estate, and he was a drummer and an investor. He invested in other people's stores. And he kind of died penniless too, of course. So he was also known by many names. Jean Montanee. He was known as Lafayette, Jean Lafayette, Jean Racine, Jean Grigri. We now kind of know what a Grigri is. And many, 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 many other names. But Bayou John, or Voodoo John, or Dr. John. So there you go, right? Dr. John. So, so we're kind of up here with, we got this Dr. John, Bayou John, probably named after he bought his house in the Bayou St. John area, which is now like Mid-City, right? So he's working on the wharves because he's a strapping dude. He's known by these scars. He's got these 3 marks. And he was this native son of this princely tribe. And these 3 stripes on his cheek was very believable because in this tribe that he would have been a prince, he had the markings of the princely things. When they're born as a baby, they mark them on their face with 3 stripes. It can also mean that you are a free person living on tribal land. Okay, we got that. So I'm spending a lot of time on the white. Remember, I told y'all, never done this before. So, just trying to get it right. Okay, but like that, Dr. John, never been in New Orleans, lands on the wharves, getting a job. Remember, New Orleans is different. Everybody's kind of hanging together, okay? People are being people, making it happen. But this guy comes along. He's a beautiful African man. He's described as very dark skin, medium height, strapping build, and he goes to work on the levees as a cotton baler. And here's the cool thing about him. He has a powerful personality. He basically becomes a rock star with what is described as a OB heart, meaning that people recognize that there was something extremely special about him and that he could read fortunes. And how he did it was, he read the hay bales. Now, Lafcadio Hearn in this article says, nobody knows. It was very weird, very queer. Exactly, queer is what they called it. A very queer way to do fortunes. Nevertheless, that's what they had going on. So, so they do that, and he gets there. He gets going, and he becomes basically super famous. He becomes so famous that, and so influential that the wharf workers, the guys, the masters, see his influence and they understand that it is super powerful. So they're like, well, how can we, maybe we need to get in good with this dude and make it happen. And, I was looking for this. More from Pop City Fun Rockin', from the Fun Rockin' pop-up. They said maybe we should get together and make it happen with this dude. He seems to be super influential and he could probably do us some favors. And that's what happened. He helped mediate disputes. He helped, he just helped everybody out. That's basically what was going on. And he earned a reputation for that as a really good dude, a helpful dude. And so he would mediate and step in and he would tell fortunes. And I mentioned the hay bales, right? Because of the Obi, and it's a different Obi than Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there's probably some super significant similarities going on there. He made a lot of money. So because the Obi and his influence, he was able to save enough money and buy property up in what's now Mid-City, so like near the fairgrounds. So if you've ever been to New Orleans to Jazz Fest, perhaps, you might have been in the Mid-City area. So that's kind of where it was. Anyway, he's up there. He's saved all this money. He's basically an African-American rock star in New Orleans. Very cool, right? So he lives this amazing life. He's conjuring. He's got this office that is supposed to be totally outrageous. It's described like a single desk, and then it's decorated with a chair where he sits, and apparently he loves to light some candles. And so he does that, and he charges like, I don't know, like $10, $20 a visit. Now, he's so popular with African Americans that thousands, it's said, thousands of people had come to him for help and advice, and pretty unbelievable. He becomes basically what equates to a millionaire. So, I mean, it's extraordinary to think that this gentleman came to New Orleans on a ship. He was a slave. He was freed. He must have been quite a personality. And he gained his freedom. And that's what he did. Came to New Orleans and he rocked it out. So, in the meantime, he's amassing a fortune. He doesn't trust banks. He's burying it in the yards. I think his estate was on Bayou Road. There's a modern Bayou Road now. There are people that live on Bayou Road, and his estate went from Prior Street to Roman Street. So you can look and you can see that very clearly. Those streets and those spots, they still exist. He did not trust banks, so he buried his treasure. That's kind of cool that he buried his treasure. And so he did his own personal banking. He was illiterate, I just mentioned that. And so he didn't put his money in the bank. And he was illiterate and decided that he had a couple of deals gone bad. So he thought, well, if he learned to read and write, he would not have those issues anymore. So I'm starting to kind of come alive here. And so he hired some people to teach him how to write his name. That's kind of where they started. And well, that was a little bit of a challenge because I'm gonna use purple. Have a little purple hidden down here. So, because once you can sign your name, you can get into all kinds of shenanigans, right? And that's what happened to him. He could sign his name, so he ended up being an investor in a shoe shop. He could be an investor in whatever. He didn't even know what he was investing in. He was just doing his thing. He had all this money, and he was a good dude, right? He was helping people with their problems, helping them with their futures. Thousands, by the way, I mentioned that earlier. Anyway, he got taken advantage of. So that's how he lost a lot of his money. But in the meantime, a couple of cool things happened. Let me take that back. He's a very open-minded man. He had 15 wives. But there's some stories about his 15 wives because he also owned a coffee shop in New Orleans. And a coffee shop was a euphemism of the day for a brothel. So he had 15 wives. They all worked in the coffee shop. He did manage to be a little bit ahead of his time. He married a white woman. And so, but he had 15 wives. And he had a lot of children. A lot of children. So, yeah, he was out there doing all that, and, you know, doing all that. And he fell on some hard times, and he ended up, like I said, making these very bad investments. And he was aging, and he was older, but he really wasn't a burden. And he still was quite a character. He had, at the time, when he was really flush with money from his predicting the future, he had a carriage. He owned a carriage with a matched pair of steeds. He owned his own horse. He liked to ride around town, dressed in Spanish fancy clothing, and you know, he liked the ladies, and of course, and he did have not only an African American clientele, he also had white people as his clients as well. Some very big patrons and people that really valued him and his ability, or his obi, or his voodoo practice. So we're trying to do a little shadowing here. You know, I did props to all the people that go online and do this, because, you know, I tell you what. Whew. So back to Dr. John. So as he aged, lost his fortune, he never really became unpopular, though. He was always pretty popular. And he remained so till the day he died. He was sort of, though, kind of reduced to living with it's actually the daughter of his final wife, his white wife, Caucasian wife. He lived with her family, and he would stand on the street corner, and they in the Harper's Weekly magazine, it said he would get his freak on. I love that. I don't know why I love that. It seems so modern for, you know, 1885. But he would get his freak on, and then the neighbors kind of would sort of avoid him, maybe a little bit, and because they said he would always end up asking for money and whatever. There's some folklores that say that money is still buried around Roman and Prior streets in Bayou St. John. I don't know, man. Maybe we should do some digging. But anyway, he passed in 1885, right several years before. It was sort of his last hurrah. He was actually known to have cured some cases of yellow fever. So remember, he was a Creole doctor, and that meant he was an herbalist. I'm going to put a few lines here. And I'm actually going to give us three lines here as an homage to Dr. John. It's my Dr. John homage. So he was said to have cured he said he cured 2 of his children from yellow fever. He crossed into the American sector. That meant crossing Canal Street to go uptown. And he had been a doctor to white families. So it says. So he, you know, he was still an institution as far back as 1878. Quite impressive, I think. And that is a story of Dr. John. Dr. John Montanee. Freed slave, free man of color in New Orleans, part of the story, part of the culture, you know, and it's really, I think it's really amazing and cool. Now, folks, there are lots of tutorials out there that are way better than mine. I would not begin to profess to be any sort of makeup artist or any sort of makeup artist at all or costume expert or anything whatsoever. But what I wanted to do was show you that if you spend a few bucks, right? You look in your closet and you use your imagination and you don't wait for another day, right? Like, today's the day. Whoops. And you say, you know what? Life's too short, because we're now finding, we didn't know that before. Life's too short to sit around and wait. Life's too short to think that what you want to have happen is just gonna happen for you. Like Fun Rockin'. Like, we had to close because of the pandemic up on Magazine Street. We had been there since 2006, and then all of a sudden there was no business and nothing happening, and we couldn't sustain that location, and we never thought it was gonna come back. But now we have a full-on Fun Rockin' right on Decatur Street in the French. I'm getting it going here, folks. Right in the French Quarter, like, awesome. And we are keeping our Pop City store open, and it hasn't been easy. It's been a struggle. Woo, who's not struggling? Huh? Hello, everybody's struggling. You might still have your job. You might still have your paycheck, but man, the big life changes that are happening, you know, it's all happening in real time. And if it's not happening to you, it's happening to your neighbors. I'm still here, by the way. It's happening to, you know, somebody that you know, and it's crazy times. But just because it's crazy times doesn't mean that life is over, that life is going to end, that we can't be happy, we can't relish in friendships and neighbors and stories and tales, and we can make new memories, right? We can make new memories, and we can make a commitment to have life shine brightly for us, right? And like, we won't let this, like, I'm not gonna let this scarf win right now, okay? It's not going to win. It is going to lose big time. See? It lost, and I won, because I always win. Okay, and so am I looking like a voodoo priestess? Not just a voodoo. It's like, if that freaks you out, shouldn't, but if it does, okay, no problem. Day of the Dead, because November 2nd is Dios de los Muertos. I don't know how my Spanish was, not good, I don't think. And you can add flowers, you can do whatever. Actually, I'm kind of Day of the Deadish every day. but yeah, you can take the same makeup and do it. Remember, I just used eyeliner, dark eyeshadow, and believe it or not, all of this jewelry, all this scarf, everything. I think they have these at Fun Rock, and they're like $8, $12, something cheap, like not a lot. And I have these feathers, so I'm going to kind of show you. And I have this jumpsuit. There's a little boob action for those that need some boobage, because I've gained like 12 pounds in this pandemic. So actually I have boobs now. See, if you made it to the 30-minute mark, you got that. We were going to include that. So here we go. Here I am, transformed. And you have the story of Dr. John. $3.50 Miron tuba white, Miron black, had a tube of red lipstick from Fun Rockin'. And I entertained you for 35 minutes. So here we go. I'm a voodoo priestess. Thanks for staying tuned. If you like this video, awesome. If you follow Pop City and Fun Rockin' on the internet, I would heart you big time. See, I heart you. If you can like us and share us, you maybe win a $50 gift certificate. But most of all, happy Saturday, happy Halloween. It's the beginning of the holidays here in America. Stay safe, wear your mask. It's very important. And I love you. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Happy Halloween.